party down, location mysterious. Wanna rock this con like my man James Tiberius. Jesse and Marina, they're mad clever like the Negus. Gonna guide you through the scenes, beam from London to Las Vegas. Where to go, how to dress, when to sleep, who to see. Celebs not to miss, Sardis Wong and SMG. Star Trek into awesome, build some memories at last. Set the proper course, the Shore Leave Podcast. Boom.
Welcome to the 64th episode of Shore Leave, your Star Trek Convention Community Podcast. I am Marina Kravchuk, one of your co-hosts, and with me is, as always, the fun Jesse Aquendo. How are you, Jesse?
Hello. Yes, I am here. I'm happy to be here. I think we're here a lot more now than we used to be. So
yes.
Love that we got a lot of this content going out. And I'm really excited about today. I've been wanting to do this episode for a while. So
yes.
Are you going to you're going to introduce the famous people that we got on here?
Yes.
We got famous people now.
No, actually, this is exciting because it almost feels like having a hangout rather than, we're going to record very officially a podcast episode. No, this feels like a hangout with friends, which it is. So special guests this time around, we have Heather Barker-Barons, the founder of this podcast, and also Ron Robel. And all four of us, just so happens, are the admin team for the Unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas Convention Group. So I hope we're going to have a pretty fun discussion. And Jesse, you want to share what we're going to be talking about?
Yes. So this week is taking a cue from one of our guests who was here recently. He does a podcast and he does this Ask Us Anything type of segment. So Ryan Huss, thank you so much for letting me steal your idea. So what we did is we went out to the group. We let them know that we were going to do a recording and that we just wanted to know what their questions were for us as administrators or for us as a part of the group. And so we've got a great amount of questions here to go through. And I'm looking forward to it. So pretty much rapid fire, so we'll round robin around to answer the questions. And then we're just going to keep talking until we're done talking. Does that sound good to everybody?
Yep.
Love it.
All right, so let's get going. So the first question is from some crazy guy named Jesse Okendo in Atlanta, Georgia. And I really just wanted to ask this. I just want to know more about, everybody know more about us. So let's talk about our first STLV and what keeps us coming back. So I will, and let me answer first. So my first STLV was 2013, I think. And I can sum up that I keep coming back because of people like who are on this podcast. So it really is for me a family reunion. I love the actors, I love sci-fi, but I love going to STLV because I just feel like it's an escape from the world. And I feel like for me, it's just a kind of a reunion every year. So that's me. Heather, let's go to you. Tell us about your first STLV and what keeps you coming back.
I love this question because I just asked it today in the group. It's been on my mind. It's something that's, 2009 was my first year, so this year would have been my 12th. Hopefully next year will be my 12th consecutive and it'll all work out. But yeah, I keep coming back for the people. I started going in a past life, I call it, because my life was so different then. It's totally different now. And it's always the people that keep coming back or keep me coming back. So yeah.
Great, thanks. Marina, let's go to you.
Well, I'm kind of like, as far as duration, I'm very similar to Heather. This would have been my 11th. I started going in 2010. And what started out as very much just, checking out the, whatever the vendor room had to offer, because I was very much into collectibles at the time. And of course, the actors and everything gradually transformed into what you call the reunion. And it still is, and it's still comfortable, and it's still exciting, and it's still kind of, it's this one tentpole event of the year when I know that I'm going to go and it's going to be this complete, very inclusive, very immersive experience where literally nothing else exists outside of those 5 days. Mm-hmm. So I can't wait until we can all, how we all going to get together at this point. Everything is so up in the air, but I am keeping my fingers crossed, we somehow get out on the other side and see each other again.
Fantastic. And last but not least, hey, Ron, why don't you, you're new to us, aren't you? You haven't been on our podcast with us.
Yes, sir. First time.
Why don't you tell us more about you and then answer the question for us?
So I am a lifelong Trekkie. I do not remember a point in my life where I wasn't obsessed. My first Trek memory I was in second grade at the Air and Space Museum with my parents, and I remember just crying because we could not get into an exhibit that allegedly had Captain Kirk's chair in it. And I don't know why at that age that sticks out, but I've always been a huge, huge Trekkie. And for years followed everything on Twitter. Every year this convention would come around and it looked amazing. And then one year, 2017, I fell into the Shore Leave podcast and did the STLV 101 and said, you know what, I'm a type A personality. I need to plan everything to the smallest detail. And was finally able to do that because of that podcast. So in 2018, I went to my first convention. I'm the newbie of the group. And just absolutely loved it. I went thinking this will be a one-time. I'm going to go. I'll love it. I'll never go back. No, I don't see myself not going again. So
fantastic. Well, we're happy to have you.
On the head. Oh, thank you. It's all about the immersive experience. You know, you go to STLV for a week, and it is 100% Star Trek all the time, which it doesn't get any better than that.
Yep.
Well, great. Well, thank you. So let's just go right on down the list here. So we are going to get a question from Yesenia. Yesenia is from Los Angeles.
This is Yesenia from LA, and I've been a member of the group since January 2015. Who originally started the group, and what was the original vision for it?
So I am going to go to Heather because I know she knows the answer. And, Heather, tell us the history because you kind of told us when we joined on.
Man, so I should have tweeted Sarah. So actually the person who I know that created the group was my friend Sarah, and she is one of the hosts of Trek Rewind over on Trek Geeks Network. And I think, you know, at the time, the official group probably was a little too strict or something. And I think that people just wanted something that was more fan driven. And so hence the unofficial, but Marina, I think you remember too, like the group used to change the name every year, like with the year change. And so then eventually
I think oh my God, when did she started it? Like 2007, 2008. And then I became aware of it probably around 2010-ish, I want to say, right around the time I actually started going to conventions. So 2009, 2010. And then I joined in 2011, and I remember it was still, I think it was actually still called Unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas, like 2011, whatever it was. And I do recall Sarah actually asking, like, so should I just have a general name for it, or do you guys want me to keep going with the year change? And I think at that point, more and more people were starting to become aware, and kind of like the conventions were getting bigger. STLV was getting bigger. I mean, 2011 was the 45th anniversary. And so the consensus was, we just need that it just be Unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas Convention Group. And here we are.
It's hard to remember the timeline because I started going in 2009, and then I think she asked if I would like to admin the group in 2012, 13, 14, somewhere in there. And so she had given the admin responsibilities to myself and someone else, and I'm the one that stayed at the end. And I'm so very, very happy because it feels like a lifetime of getting to know everybody and seeing the group grow and seeing STLV grow and change. Like the 2009 STLV was so different from, 2019 STLV, and it's been amazing to have been a part of that. So I think Sarah is still around, but definitely check out at Trek Rewind is their Twitter handle. And she's probably somewhere out there. I know she's on Twitter. I think she's been kind of like doing less with social media. So
I do hope. I know that she doesn't go every year, but she does come to STLV. And last time I saw her, we had one couple, wonderful chats, and took some selfies and everything. So it would be certainly great. Like I said, especially right now, it would be so great to see everyone again, including her. So hopefully next year things will happen, and maybe she'll stop by.
Great. And so Heather, like, when Yesenia asked about the vision, how has the vision changed over your time? And then I want to go to Ron to see what he thinks coming in as the newest one.
I will try not to take 20 minutes to answer that. The group was a lot smaller when I joined and when Marina was a member, and like there weren't a lot of rules. So that was one big thing that happened after I took over admin rights, and then the group started growing a lot. there was a lot of negativity that seems to happen on the internet. And I felt like this was supposed to be, a fun group where, sure, fans don't have to like, I don't know how to say it. Like we prefer to continue to be respectful of creation, but we like to make sure that fans have an outlet and a way to talk about things, as long as it's not just flat out pooping on creation, for lack of a better phrase. So we've really just kept it fan focused, and a bit more laid back. And I think because of those things, even though we do have rules in place, those have really helped kind of keep that vision of this is a welcoming and inclusive place. We try to be positive about everything. So I know that not everyone is a fan of rules and moderators and all that fun stuff, but it's been great for our group, I think, and I hope. And all of you can be the judge and weigh in on that.
Well, I appreciate, when I came in, I appreciated the structure because it helped me kind of figure out what was going on. And so Ron, you had said that. You said that you kind of fell into this and found us. I mean, did you get what you needed out of the group when you joined? Was it what you expected?
It was far beyond what I expected. I used to be a big Disney nerd too. I worked at Disney for 10 years. And as a kid, I would look at Disney and I'm a type A personality. I need to understand every detail of everything. And the information that was out there for STLV was really somewhat limited. And when I found this group, it seemed like a place where there were all these people that were so excited to share their story, share tips, share tricks. And it was just such a great tool. And beyond that, once you get to the convention, there are hundreds of faces of people that you've been interacting with that are, I know these people, I recognize you. I'm also one of the most socially awkward people you'll ever meet. So I remember meeting Marina for the first time, and I know you, you're the admin in that Facebook group. And it's such a unique way to meet people that is really, I think, something special that no other fandoms really have.
Yeah, and that's great. And that leads us really straight into the next question. So it's from Lisi. She's from Miami. And I'm guessing it's Miami, Florida, because there's also a Miami, Oklahoma for some reason.
And Miami, Ohio, too. Yeah. There's lots of Miami.
So Lisi, we don't know which Miami.
No, Lisi is from Miami, Florida.
Well, there we go. There we go. And she's been with us since 2019. Her question really is along the same lines. How or where did you all meet each other? So, Ron, how did you meet the rest of us? Because I think I just met you last year, didn't I? Like face to face?
I think so. Yeah, I remember meeting you last year face to face. Marina was that, I'm sure you don't remember, it was incredibly, it was the first face of somebody. I recognized that person. But being so awkward, it was like a small fan encounter. And Heather, I did a quick selfie with you that first year I went. But yeah, just the first time, it's so overwhelming to meet all these people that you've interacted with online. So this was going to be there. I was really looking forward to having talked to a lot more people and kind of connect more, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. And I remember meeting Marina my first year, and the only why I remember that is because I was a Voyager fan and she was a Voyager fan. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, we had I think met each other online, maybe because of Johnny from New York. You kind of knew who I was and I kind of knew who you were. But I remember I saw you walking down the hall and you were in a Voyager jacket and I went, I think that's that girl. And I was new, so I'm like, I didn't know how creepy it would be, but that's when we first met and you were so friendly. You made me feel really comfortable. So thank you for that.
Oh, my pleasure. But it's something about the atmosphere as well. I mean, if there's something like that happens in, I don't know, on the train station or while you're walking on the street, somebody rushes you and says, hey, it probably would, some bells would ring. Once you're in, those convention halls and people just approach you, it's kind of like given that, it's all part of this one community. And great. I have no idea who you are, but great to see you. And
I remember, Heather, my first meeting you was around the masquerade, I think. Mm-hmm. And I just remember the masquerade was so overwhelming, but you kind of knew who I was just because I had been around for a little bit. And I remember it was you and Jeff and I was like, oh, those are people who look famous in this group, But I remember you were also very kind and very open and accepting to us. So thank you.
I think I'm trying to think. 2010, I definitely did not I think Heather, you and I met in person for the first time was probably 2011 convention, because that was, I remember
Probably.
us having drinks at McFadden's, which unfortunately is gone.
Yeah.
And they had
Oh,
all
yeah.
quarks. And I remember I had probably 2 or 3 board queens in a row, and that was you and
Mm-hmm.
Frankie.
Yep.
And we were just sitting there chatting. I'm like, this is going great. I actually, there are people I can talk to.
Yeah.
And where else can you say you met 3 board queens in a row? I want to
No,
hear that phrase again.
I had 3 board queens in a row. It's a very fancy green drink with, you're
Yeah.
supposed to put dry ice in it, but unfortunately they, of course, didn't have it. But still, it was kind of like a version of martini, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And
2011 was the first year that we were at the Rio
yeah.
for the convention. So it was a whole new experience. And that was my first time on my own. But I think that we've hit an important nail on the head here. And again, let's emphasize that we didn't even know each other like in the group necessarily before we met at STLV. I think there is.
It was basically name recognition mostly, but still it worked, and then it kind of developed and sort of became a modus operandi for how people become part of the group, and then they have some sort of like, oh great, at least I can now put the actual faces with names, and it kind of grows from there.
I think having that, there is a feeling of even like safety with that community, because you're like, oh my gosh, I see someone I think I know, and that's just enough to help kind of anchor you, at least for me anyway. Then I could start to feel a little bit more comfortable in the space that I am. But it's, I love the fact that so many people that I talked to at STLV have met someone, like the first person they met was from within our group, and it was the same feedback of being kind and welcoming, which is just so important and makes me so very proud of everybody.
That is great.
Well,
go ahead, Ron. Sorry.
Just to tack onto that too, I think we have over 5,000 members in the group right now, but when you get to STLV, there's far more than 5,000 people, but you still see a lot of familiar faces and names, and it's a sense of community when you're there. You're not in Las Vegas, a giant city full of strangers. You're in a small community where you know people.
Yeah, and you have something in common.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was probably aside from something at work, probably one of the first times that I had been with people that I related to, because so no one believes it, but I am a little socially awkward depending on where I am. And I maybe came out of my bubble with STLV, but like, I remember before then I was like, I just hated crowds and hated people. And, I've told this story before. My first day at STLV, I really wanted to go back home. It wasn't until I met some people and really understood how we were like-minded that I felt really comfortable and kind of got out of my shell. So, and that's what we try to do for our other group members. So for the listeners who don't know, I usually help sponsor a newbies event every year at the Circle Bar, or whatever we call it. And it's kind of a way just to kind of be somewhere where everyone else knows that you're new, right? And so it used to try to be just newbies, but then everybody who was there just went anyway. So we just kind of let everybody go. But
but at the very least, it's something like if you're traveling by yourself, or if you are brand new at D, it certainly is an event to go to, because like Jesse said, you know that this is going to be an icebreaker type of meetup, and hopefully it would help.
And I started going meeting everyone there, and then like once they're comfortable, like shooting off my kids from the tree when the birds leave the nest. I'm like, okay, go fly to the masquerade now. Because that's really what's intimidating. The masquerade, I have no idea why it's so small, but everybody's always there. But that's an intimidating spot for noon-timers. So we kind of give you a little comfort and then send you over there. And I think it's been fun. It's well accepted. So
this whole point though makes me want to skip to Yesenia's next question, because okay, I'm terrible.
No, go ahead. Yeah, let's go to Yesenia's next question.
If Creation hired you to help plan STLV, what would your passion project be?
Okay, so let me do this. This was something that we were working on for this year, and which likely will not happen, but I want to focus on more like low key events for fans, not at the bar, like not stuff that doesn't cost money to participate in. Like that has been the one thing throughout my entire experience at STLV, and especially as an admin, is having, you know, quieter spaces away from bars and lots of people that everyone can just kind of play games together or just sit down and have a chat. And unfortunately, we're always kind of held back because of the Rio space. And so like this year, we were working on having our own suite, which is great. But I would want to work on that at a larger scale because people are there and you want to keep people, you know, in the casino instead of them having to go other places. So I think it would be great if, whether eventually there's a venue change or just the convention space is utilized better to allow for those spaces. Quiet spaces where you can hear people talk is my passion project.
Yeah, I remember this only happened one year. Remember the Tribbles, like the Tribble Lounge?
Yes.
Wasn't that really calm and relaxing? And I loved it. And then it went away after as soon as it came. I'm really
It's
sad.
it's the CBS All Access stage area right now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I have so many selfies of laying on those tribbles. It was amazing.
Yeah, I loved it. So, Ron, what would you think if your answer to this question, if Creation hired you to help plan STLV, what would your passion project be?
You know, I'm going to kind of piggyback off what Heather said. I like the idea of the fan moments. My first year, 2 years ago, they had outside courts. They were playing episodes and had tables set up, and it was incredible. Every time you go in there, you'd see groups of people playing games or chatting or really just socializing. I think that's such a great opportunity. The other thing I love panels. I'm one of the few people that can spend all day just watching these panels, but occasionally have to go to the restroom. I'd like TVs to be everywhere so I can see what I'm missing in the main room when I'm not in there. So yeah, that's all I have. There's just those two really small things. I think, you know, Creation gets a lot of criticism for a lot of small details, but overall it is such a great experience. And those events are so hard to plan. When you think about the number of talent stars that they're working with, the number of vendors they're working with, it's such a well-executed event.
Yeah, and Marina, what do you think?
I would like to see some additions and changes in the programming in the sense of the type of content. I have noticed a very definite uptick in the amount of actual signs appearing at pop culture conventions. There are certain conventions like AwesomeCon that actually have gigantic amount of space and time dedicated when you can actually go to, I don't know, who did they have, like National Geographic and NASA people, and talk to them. Obviously, this is, again, we're talking about limitations of the convention space. But in terms of programming, last year certainly proved that science-based panels are very popular. Dr. Erin McDonald, everything that she presented in the CBS All Access stage, there were people standing in the Quarks area. That's how huge the crowd was. There was not enough people. So it's certainly something that deserves attention. It can be sort of upgraded to being in the larger, maybe in the secondary theater at least, and to just generally have more of that. Another thing I noticed that the trivia stuff, like the games, the actual things, that's something that Jordan Hoffman or Larry Nemechek used to host, they shrunk, and those were great fun, actually. That was fan involvement, but those were official panels, and there have been barely any over the past couple of years. So I'd love to see that kind of change to come back, sort of start to perhaps play around with the programming a little bit and see how it can be fit between the usual Q&As or the presentations. Like we have the cosplay contest and occasional makeup sessions, that sort of thing. How it can all be possibly maybe pushed up tighter, because we do have 5 days worth of programming to deal with. It would be great to see, a little bit more diversity.
That's great. I know for me, what I'd like to see is honestly just changes in the area itself. I'd like to see more common areas like the Tribble Lounge, so I don't believe that, the Tribbles are outside when we do the photo ops with them. So, maybe there's a corner of a hallway, which when I'm tired, I go find a corner in the hallway, which there are there. But maybe put some tables out, not necessarily sit down tables, maybe some bar tables across the hallway that leads into the convention area, just so people can kind of take
Yep.
the seat.
I have
and
to
just,
actually make a note of that one because somebody brought that up at some point. It was just one of those conversations in the bar,
yeah,
and there are quite a lot of limitations to just putting additional stuff. You have to be very careful where you're putting what, because the moment you put something across the door or something that's very near the door, the fire marshal can come in and
oh
basically
yeah,
shoot you down. So in this case, we have to always remember, as much as we would like to and put in more photo op spots and put more of the stuff. There is actually at this point, Creation occupies the entire convention facility package that the Rio has. I don't know
yeah.
how much empty places they actually have for.
I don't think they have much empty places,
No,
but I know that like one of the things that, so you guys, when you stand in line before you get your ticket, because you go do the early registration, Marina,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah.
right? Those little benches, like, can we just change the benches out and make something a little more there? I mean, it's a big hallway. They're not all fire stuff, right? And then there's that area where people go outside and smoke. There's some areas there. I mean, there's places where we can kind of make it a little more friendly, but we've also, what I've seen over the years is that we tighten security a little bit more. So like the days of I'm not going to buy a ticket, I'm just going to walk around the vendor room is gone, because they stop you before you even get down the hallway. And that was like right at the 50th, right? And it's only fair, but like I really wish they'd bring back that cadet ticket, which is the ticket you don't get into anything but the hallway and the vendor's room. It was $25. You just got to go in and hang out, and you didn't, you just weren't allowed into anything else. I want to see that sucker every year, just because, there's people who that's all they want to do. They want to go see what's the.
And I suppose it could be done on specific days. Like for instance, Saturday, it would probably be hard to do because then you'd have to deal with crowd control. I'm sure there are a certain number of people who can be in corridors and the halls. But on slower days, like Wednesday, Thursday, certainly. But there it is. And then the vendor room is fuller on Wednesdays and Thursdays.
And I, by far, am not a like a one of these people who, what is this called? Like an event planner, wedding planner, whatever. I don't know how to do any of this stuff, but but I've seen it in other places. I think we can probably do something.
What year was that ticket?
That was right before the 50th.
That's what I thought. And then we had the 50th, and the 50th sold out, and Creation was like, we'll never have to do this again and charge $25 for these tickets. Yeah, I mean, I think that I have no problem with it. I think the one thing that is standing in the way is, as Marina pointed out earlier, stuff with like fire marshal and numbers. If a certain amount of people bought those tickets, and like say all the panels let out, and then there's all these people in the corridor, stuff like that. But there's lots of speculation to be had about the future of STLV right now. We won't do that. Let's talk about fun things.
So
but Jesse, what was did you just tell me what your passion project was, and then I went off in my own head? Is that what happened?
Yeah. I wanted to see more common areas.
Yes.
So we're cool with me.
Yeah. So that's we're on the same wavelength altogether, I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
So let's go on to our next question. So our next question is going to come from Scott. He's from London. And his question is very similar. So not the same, but similar.
Hello, this is Scott Hardy here from London, England, and this is my question. If you could make one major and one minor change to STLV, what would they be and why? Cheers, and stay safe, everyone.
So we just talked about like what our passion project would be. So one minor and one major thing, like if you were in charge of STLV, that you would do. And so Heather, because you already probably thinking about it, go ahead. You.
I was just thinking, it was the same thing. I would change the venue just to provide some more space. If they can't figure out a way to better utilize some of the spaces for people who just want to sit down for a while, or etc., as we just talked about. I don't even know if I want the conventions. Vegas is easy for me. It's convenient. Yay. That's a fun question to explore. Oh shoot. Minor change. Put the schedule out earlier, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, but then it's one of those things where it's like, you
Yeah.
think, like, please do it, but we all know realistically it's very
Yeah, it's never, yeah, it's just one of those things. It came up in my Facebook memories, I think, although I was actually criticizing Denver Comic Con back when it was called that, because I was like, if STLV can get their schedule out a few days ahead, why can't Denver Comic Con? Yeah.
Well, I know the schedule's always contentious.
Yeah.
So Marina, what's your big and
Well,
small thing?
The major stuff, as I said, there's certainly more things that can be done with scheduling. But of course, as far as figuring out the programming, I know that this is never an easy thing. And I'm trying to remember where I heard that say something. It was one of those things that Creation did. Remember that they were filming the Shatner's documentary, where it's like there's so much unbelievable planning that has to go months and months in advance that nobody's probably even aware of all the nitty gritty. But I do hope that as far as major things is to add more variety to the types of panels, because we've seen it during the cruise. You can do shows and you can do presentations, and it's all doable on terra firma, and they were doing this on the ship. So that sort of thing. It's minor stuff. I actually do hope that we would get more decorations. Like, we already have the entrances decorated to the halls, and we have the banners hanging, and of course the photo op areas. But if you do go a couple of years in a row, you kind of see the same thing over and over again. I'm sure it's not cheap to change things around, but perhaps a little bit more variety can be done, maybe a little bit more. So I'm actually very curious to see if 2020 would have brought something else, seeing that we're heading into a couple of years in a row of anniversaries, the Voyager 25th this year, and then 20th of Enterprise next year. Let's bring on some, I don't know, fancy stuff when you walk around and you see the faces of your favorite characters around or something.
Ron, what are your thoughts, big and small?
Well, I'm going to just ditto on the schedule. It's tough, man. It comes out, what was the last year? 4 days beforehand. Just the details. I would love to have it all at once, a year out, all the guests that'll be there, all the pricing for the photo ops, all the pricing for the autographs. It'll never happen, but it would be great.
It's a wonderful pie in the skies.
And then what Marina said too, I think that the decorations, we heard about Destination was going to have the Voyager bridge this year, and just how incredible it would be to see stuff like that at STLV. The cruise had the interactive EMH with Robert Picardo. Things like that. I'd love to see more variety for the decorations and ambient atmosphere throughout STLV.
That's great. That's great. So for me, I'll tell you, the big thing is I would love to see the venue change, maybe to some place like the Mandalay Bay that's got more space for us to expand in. But at the very least, the big thing is, can you get us new carpets?
That's a question for Rio, isn't it?
I know, but we've been going for a while, and nothing has been updated or changed at the Rio, and it's starting to make me feel like we're stepchildren. Nobody
but at the same time, I like watching World Series of Poker Mania.
Yes.
When they show
and maybe
sadly,
they're
and I see the carpet. I'm like, I feel wonderful already.
And then after us, it's the Latin accountants now. So I think it's cool because you do kind of know what's going on. I don't like it that we tear down earlier because we've got that convention that comes in after us. So the Rat Pack isn't done and the Delta in the middle's gone. I don't like that very much, but I would just like to see a little more upgraded. So kudos on having credit cards at Quark's Bar, so you don't have to pay cash all the time. So I love that we did that. I love that there's a place there to eat. I just like a little upgraded space, just because it's starting to feel dingy and of course, we know the Rio's going through a lot of changes in terms of management. So we just don't know what's going to happen there. And the small thing for me really is just, okay, so it doesn't take that much technology to either have a lanyard or a tag on your hand to get in and out. This whole thing that I hear every year, it starts with you need to have your lanyard and your wristband, and then you only need your wristband, and then you need your lanyard. guys, we all have a phone. We can like swipe a ticket or something every time we go in and out if we had to. But like it's always a little bit annoying because you always know one or two people have to go back to their 20-minute walk to their room because they forgot either the wristband or the lanyard. So I would just make that a little more digital. You know, we've got the schedule digital. Let's make our in and outs a little more digital is what I would like. So that's me. Okay, so we're going to take a question now from Tori. Tori's from Stamford, Connecticut. Been a member since 2012. And her question is, what is one thing you wish you knew about STLV before your first time? So I'm going to go to Ron.
I would say bring more money than you think you're going to want. Being the new guy, I'm still like, I need every photo op I can possibly get. And it's crazy how quickly they add up. It's nice you can buy them ahead of time, but definitely bring more money. Don't plan to be everywhere at once. It's so easy. I remember last year having my Excel spreadsheet with all my events, and it was one right after another. And at the end of it, I made it to maybe half of that stuff. So it's really easy to stretch yourself too thin. I know that there's just so much going on.
Yeah. Heather, what about you?
So the answer that comes to mind automatically is my heartfelt one, which is I wish I'd known that it was going to change my life. But at that same time, I was fine not knowing that. The really easy thing is that I don't ever want to pay $200 for a Patrick Stewart photo op again. I wish So, and it's funny, this ties into each other because look, when you plan for STLV for your first time, like speaking for myself, I was like, this is a once in a lifetime experience. This is something I'm going to do this year and I'm going to go all out. So, you know, first year I did go all out and got like Leonard Nimoy's photo op and all these big stars. And then the next year when I saw that Patrick Stewart was going to be there, I just lost it. And I was like, again, once in a lifetime thing. Like I might never go to this convention again. And so there was my $200 for a not great photo. It's my own hang-ups with the photo, but yeah, I wish I'd waited and done it before.
You know something, at this point, I kind of look back at that cost and I'm like, you know what? I think I'd probably pay even more right now because he no longer does personal photo ops.
Yeah, especially, you know, you never know. So it's one of those things where it's like, again, for, you know, first time I've ever met Patrick Stewart. What if it never happens again? Oh my God, spend the money. And to be fair, he's only come back a handful of times, but that's it. That's a very small complaint, small regrets. You know.
Well, mine is going to be a bit more practical than that. I wish somebody told me not to pack as much stuff as I packed when I went the first time. I had way too much clothes with me. And because, you know, I figured, well, it's a desert, you know, so it's going to be very hot. So I probably should have like extra shirts and all that other stuff. And then realistically, especially once I actually did acquire a couple of costumes, the uniforms, it became even more so. I was like, literally, I only need to bring very few things, even though I'm there for the entire week. So I wish somebody told me, is like, don't overthink it, you know, just think as realistically as you know, like, what are you going to be wearing, considering that you have a 16-hour day when you're just there trekking. Another thing was something that Ron said, actually, you can't be everywhere. So, you know, trying to rush and try to get to as many panels and photo ops and autographing sessions as possible is literally doing nothing, you know, in the sense that you can't really concentrate and take in the experience. You just, you know, I remember my first year, I was Voyager panel, and I know that I have a photo op going on in 15 minutes. So I'm literally sitting on the edge of my seat. And I'm like, okay, once the hand of the watch gets to this point, I really, really have to go. But I really want to listen to the panel as well. And it was like constant coming and going. So it was, you know, this very fractions of experiences, you know, listened to a little bit of a panel and then rushed over there and stood in the line. And then I did this. Whereas kind of trying to see what is it exactly that I wanted to see the most and concentrating on that probably would have been more fulfilling. Having said that, you know, it kind of naturally develops that. I noticed that the last couple of years, I've actually been missing some of the panels that I really was interested in seeing because I was either talking to somebody, you know, like friends that I made, or we decided to hang out, or, well, I actually don't eat during the convention hours, but still it was the moment where 3-4 people I know, and we were just standing in the corner and chatting to each other. I'm like, and there is a panel just going by, and it's okay, you know, I'm having the time of my life regardless.
Yeah, I know for me, like, I wish I would have known that I didn't have to buy 4 days of costumes. Because y'all, those Star Trek costumes, no matter what it is, are hot. And so like, I guess it's cold in space because like there is not a costume that I've bought that has been comfortable yet to wear very long. So I honestly, STLV was my first convention I'd ever gone to, and I went all out. I went gold ticket. I went every picture, every autograph. I went, costume like crazy. And I was like depressed the first day because I was hot, I was tired, and it was just, it was crazy. So you do not have to come dressed like an officer or an alien. You can just come with t-shirts and jeans and enjoy it. And remember, you're in Vegas, so it's hot. Be comfortable. Make sure you drink plenty of water and that you're having at least 2 meals a day so that you can keep up the momentum that STLV has. And if you want to cosplay, I would, some people do it every day. I would just recommend, like I do now, is like pick one day, one costume that's your big costume and do that. That way you can enjoy the rest of the week because those costumes are not, they're not for the faint of heart.
And just generally speaking, like the general advice I would give to anyone at this point is that the moment you start thinking, well, I have to do this, it's basically, it's something I must do. It's a chore. It's just not a way to plan a convention experience, because then, it's something that you must do. So therefore you're not actually having fun. You're following some sort of some idea or rule or somebody else that somebody made up that is just not helping. Or, so if you feel like cosplaying, cosplay. If you think like, well, I must bring this thing and do this, no, it's just not going to be fun.
Just bring yourself.
And that's the best advice I could give anyone. Just come ready to have fun, and don't come, if you're coming and you're already stressed out when you walk in the door, then let us know. We'll help you out.
I feel like I have to change my answer to give actual helpful advice, and I would say that I wish I knew that I could stay at the Gold Coast for half the price, although let's be certain I've only stayed there 1 year. However, I think that a lot of people, when one of the first things that we say is make sure you bring more money, I think that a lot of people become very intimidated. Like, yes, this is an expensive convention. Even at a discount, it will still be an expensive convention. But I think it's important to remember that there are ways to make it not so overwhelming from a financial aspect. And so I think if a lot of people realized, there's an option right next door that will save you a lot of money. You just have to have a little bit of a walk. That might open up a gateway for somebody who had already dismissed it because of the price of the Rio. So that's my helpful tip that everybody already knew.
Well, thank you very much. So
I want to just piggyback on that too and say I couldn't agree more. I joke and I say bring more money. I like to do everything as cheap as you possibly can in Vegas. I'm at the Gold Coast buffet in the morning. It's like $6 with a player's card. And I would say every dollar I save on travel expenses is $1 I'm spending in the vendor's room. So it's all about, there are so many ways to do it on the cheap too. And I think Heather's right. A lot of people can get scared away from the price tag, but if you budget and do it right, it can be done on the cheap.
Yeah, it's the planning. It's like you said, you and I do spreadsheets. I don't know, if I have a sizable event to go to, spreadsheets is the way to go, and I figure all things out. And more often than not, if I go for something that's more expensive, something else is offsetting that. But otherwise, plan ahead.
Yeah, and if you're not a planner, what you do is you get a podcast co-host who's a planner. You just ask her what's going on, because that's what I've been doing since I met Marina. Oh. All right, so somebody wants to hear about us. So this is from May. May's from Redwood City, California. Been with the group since 2015. I will tell you, May is also one of my cruise buddies as well. So we travel quite a bit together.
Hi, Shore Leave. This is May Borello from Redwood City, California. What is a hobby or activity each of you like to do or would like to learn to do?
So Marina, let's start with you this time.
I've been thinking, it's like I kind of fall into category of a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I have a bunch of this little interests, I mean, outside of Star Trek. And I'm like, how did it's so some seemingly unrelated. Like, for instance, I like to collect minerals, so I have a small mineral collection. I enjoy reading about Japanese art, like Natsuki, that sort of thing. So I have a small collection of books on the subject matter. So it's kind of becomes like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. In that regard, it's perfect to be living next to New York, because New York has this smorgasbord of all the sorts of weird things and events and galleries that I can go to, because one day, I'll be interested in, like, recently, for instance, history of tea. So I got into that, so I'm checking this information out right now. So I guess you can say that I like a little bit of everything, but occasionally some thoughts come along. Like, for instance, I've been wondering recently to do something practical, because I'm not very good at, like, sewing or knitting or I don't know, sawing wood or what have you. But there is something called pyrography, where you burn wood. You can actually make artwork out of wood using, well, you don't use open fire, but you have specific tools to actually do that. I find that fascinating, and I've seen people do that. You can use wood, you can use leather, and at some point I think I would like to look into that. I can draw and paint a little bit, but that used to be more of an activity I was interested in when I was younger, as a teenager. And right now I just prefer to just go to galleries and look at other people's works. So yeah, I'm kind of like a Mexican jumping bean, aren't I? I'm just a little bit here, a little bit there. So what about you, Ron?
So I work a lot. I love to work. My work is my life. But beyond that, I really am trying to learn how to cook. When I was in college, I took one food class and absolutely loved it. And I like to try to find a recipe and get it to the point of perfection. So beef jerky, it's the most random food. I can make the best beef jerky you've ever had. Right now, I'm focusing on pizza, on how to make the absolute perfect pizza. So in my off time, I love cooking.
Wow, that's impressive. All right, Heather, what about you?
Swords. I recently, in the past couple years.
Yeah, let's explain that a little bit.
I'm trying. Okay, so yeah, the last couple years. So my husband is a longsword fencer, and now his wife is a longsword fencer. That's how relationships work, I guess. No, Jason was fencing. I thought it was really interesting. So this is not the kind of fencing that Picard does. We do a variety of different types of weaponry and fencing in our club, but I do longsword fencing. So it's a two-handed sword. They only weigh about 3 pounds. So it's not super heavy like some people think. But I just kind of started watching videos of Jason and thought, this might be really cool for me to learn to do. I've never, ever thought I would swing a sword around. And so I started taking classes, and it's turned out to be a really great thing for me.
Well, I've been watching you on Facebook, and I think I always find it's fun. Like, I'm like, I don't know that I'd ever want to do that, but it's kind of cool to see someone I know doing it.
Yeah, there's something about that particular thing. It feels so medieval. Like, for instance, I've been always fascinated with archery. I would love to take up archery. Unfortunately, and I looked into it, there's like no clubs or anything in the immediate vicinity of where I am. So I was like, well, would it be weird if I sign up? I'm sure there's something in New York again, but would it be weird kind of traveling with, I don't know, an actual bow and arrows going to New York? I don't know.
No, I mean, anything goes on the subway, right? No, I walk down the street with my sword to go to class sometimes. People say stuff, but yeah.
How heavy is it? I was wondering.
It's just the sword itself is about 3 pounds. And then, with all my gear, that makes it tougher. So as people might imagine, yes, we are, cutting swords at each other. Your goal is to hit the other person, which means that we wear a lot of padded gear. So I think I have 15 or 16 pieces of gear that I wear, including a padded jacket and padded pants or a skirt, chest protector, all this stuff. So there is definitely, you get bruises, and there's possibilities of broken fingers and stuff like that.
Ouch.
So I try not to do that, and not to. I'm still very intermediate, so it's fun for me, and I want it to always be fun. I just did my first beta tournament a while back. not really ready for tournaments. No, that was bad. But, it's nice that it's something physical and it's something completely new that I've never done. And I am getting better. And so that helps build confidence, which is something that has been needed in my life. I'm going through some trauma a few years back. So it's been really great. If anybody wants to Google HEMA, which is Historical European Martial Arts, they can Google that and find some videos. And there's some videos of me at my YouTube channel at Batleth Babe, if anybody wants to go see those to understand what I'm talking about.
Oh,
so
that's
yay.
awesome.
Do you actually get to like study the historical aspect of it, like how did the whole
Yes.
thing with the? Because I love history, so I'm wondering, like, did you actually have to like know where certain things come from, or you just?
So yeah, part of you can learn the sport without learning the history of the sports.
But it helps. I'm sure.
But yeah, we teach the history. We talk about why, a certain cut or a parry was used. Our school is German longsword fencing. There's also Italian fencing. There's, all kinds of countries. But it is rooted in like medieval fencing and things that a lot of people don't quite understand. The context of things like even dueling is that people didn't actually duel to kill each other. They dueled until someone else was like, oh, okay, no, we're good now. Or they dueled for fun in some cases, and it's not like these crazy wild sword fights that people envision. So it does help to learn the history. There's a lot of history around fencing. But yeah, longsword fencing is what I do. We also have rapier, saber, spears, sword and dagger, all kinds of things that we do at our club. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
It's very cool. It's very
So along the same line, so I think I have two answers for this. Like the one is axe throwing, like that whole thing that I don't even know, but I don't know why, but I went to visit Eric from the Rio group, and we went to a medieval festival, and I was just fascinated by these people throwing axes. And I was like, I could do that, but I was scared to, so I didn't. So I just want to try it to see how that is. But
Yeah.
it's between that, and I really want to I really need to find someone to go to like a Zumba class with. I want a Zumba so bad because it just seems like so much fun. And I've got a friend who's an instructor and she keeps encouraging me to go. But like, I'm not, if there were Star Trek Zumba, if that's a thing here, I would definitely go. But like, I'd have to find someone to like, share the embarrassment with me until I got good. Because I would get good. I'm just telling you, I got the Latin blood. So, I'd be just fine. But that would be it. But May, thanks for the question. I think maybe on the next cruise, I'll do a dance lesson or something and maybe I'll get myself into that. Yeah. So, all right. So guys, I am going to skip around a little bit because we have been talking quite a while. So I want to make sure that I'm cognizant of everybody's time. So I'm going to go to questions from Desiree. Desiree's from Los Angeles. I think we all know Desiree. She's been in the group for 8 years. And I'm going to start with her first question is, how has the group affected your STLV experience? And I think somehow we've all answered that a little bit. So Heather, let's just quickly go around and kind of, I guess we'll reiterate it because I think we've already answered this quite a bit.
Well, I want to emphasize, just for people who may not understand why we use a group page, that so first of all, STLV and our group have both changed my life in very wonderful ways. However, there have been negatives, being an admin of the group before we had the page, having to enforce rules, having to send messages to people, and it hasn't always been great. So one of the things we did was implement using the page to moderate for the most part. And we really appreciate that everyone has been accepting of that and respectful of it and messages the page and usually not us individually. So I have gotten so much wonderful life experience and friendship and everything from our group. For me, it's been up and down, but now it's all good.
Great. Ron, what about you?
I think just that sense of community. I mean, I don't know what the STLV experience would be like without the group because I've been a member of the group as long as I've been going to STLV. But like I said before, being able to go and just in any line at STLV, I'm going to see somebody that I recognize from the group, and it's immediate somebody you can walk up to and pick up a conversation with, because you know you have something in common. That's great love of Star Trek.
Yeah. Marina?
Well, since we already mentioned the community and everything, that's so practically a given. But I also find that it enhances my own experience because it makes it more structured. Again, we already talked about, Ron and I are planners. It kind of, I enjoy when things kind of fall into place. So I know there is a certain way, as well, we all know, there's a certain way that the group moves as close as we get to the convention. Certain questions start to pop up. So there is a certain way of kind of like, okay, I know things are going to be asked and I can be helpful, and kind of make things hopefully easier for somebody because we already have the questions. We can organize the information and distribute it in the group. And once we get the influx of the new attendees and the new members in the group, I'm sure that's where really the value of the group comes through.
That's awesome. And for me, it's all about the relationships. I think I've said that enough. It's really enhanced my connection with people that I didn't have before. Desiree's next question, though, is what song is or would be your go-to song for Klingon karaoke? I'm going to answer this one. So I've memorized one song that I do for karaoke whenever I get a chance, and it's Livin' La Vida Loca with Ricky Martin. And I will tell you that I was in Klingon karaoke one day, and the guy who was going to go was not very sober. So I got handed a mic by Connor Trenier or somebody, and I ended up doing Sabotage. And I am not a rock person, and that did not go well. So please don't give me a mic unless I'm ready for it. But yes, no, Livin' La Vida Loca is my karaoke. Ron, what about you?
Man, I'm going to need a lot of drinks to get up on stage and sing something. But it would have to be something disco. I'm a disco guy. Old school. Yeah.
Marina, I don't see you as karaoke, but are you secret karaoke?
I thought you might leave me for last because I have a horrible admission to make. I don't care about karaoke at all. Which is why I wanted to.
You're out of here. You're out of here.
I'm always trying to stay out of the conversations with people. Remember, there was that one year when they said, well, instead of 2 karaoke on Thursday and Friday, we're just going to have 1, and people just went
crazy.
And it was like, I am staying out of this conversation completely because I literally have nothing to contribute because it's simply not something I'm interested in, so I don't care. No, let me rephrase it. Not that I don't care. I feel horrible because I know a lot of my friends are into it and they always go, especially to the one that, well, actually both of them. I mean, when Connor and Dominic host or the one with the Klingons, everybody's always having fun. Fantastic. It's a sort of party. Mm-hmm. Everybody can find what they like during the convention. So that's the perfect example why SLV is great. You find something for you always. But in this case, this is not something that I am personally interested in. But so in terms of like just general music, I think I'm going to side with Ron. I love ABBA, go for that.
Heather, do you have a go-to?
I can't sing. You don't love me on that stage. I don't know what's happening. However, I mean, my goal for STLV 2021 is to hire someone to teach me to sing so that I can get up and blow everyone away. No, that'll never happen. So since I don't have a song, and this is really bad because I don't remember the name of the person and I don't remember what they were singing, but I do remember sitting in karaoke and I was like, how on every karaoke show you're watching, like there's always someone that comes up that's like, they've got the voice of gold. Yeah. And you don't expect it, but like all of a sudden someone is blowing you away. And I had that moment one year and it was amazing because it was 5 minutes before I mentioned it. And then my friend Ian leaned over and he's like, there's your moment. And I was like, yes. Cause they came out singing and then got picked up and carried by people in the room. It was just wonderful. And it was really cool to see someone have a moment like that. So again, even though you don't want to hear me sing, I love going to karaoke for moments just like that because other people sing way better than I do. And they blow me away every year.
Oh, well, that's good. So Desiree had a special question just for Marina. Marina, you know what it is.
Yeah, she wanted to know why I don't cosplay. I do cosplay. I haven't cosplayed in probably about Oh, the last time I cosplayed was actually the 50th of 2016. I own 3 uniforms, so that's my deal, and it's the First Contact uniform, the Voyager uniform, and the TNG uniform. So I don't think I've ever worn TNG uniform at a convention because I always prefer. I'm very comfortable in the Voyager and the First Contact one. And the silly, stupid reason why you haven't seen me since 2016 wearing anything is that, unfortunately, I gained some weight. So once that's dealt with, I will certainly go back to wearing it because I actually really, really enjoy wearing uniforms during conventions. It kind of adds a little more oomph to the usual fun experience.
I agree. Like, I did learn that the uniforms are a little better than trying to do something with makeup and high heels and stuff like that.
When I just started wearing them, like literally I was stopped at the corridor. I was talking to somebody. I mean, at this point we talked to so many people during the convention, it's kind of a blur. But I was wearing the First Contact uniform. 2 other people were wearing First Contact uniforms, and I think the other person was wearing the Enterprise uniform. And here we are, all standing in the middle of this giant corridor, and we're wearing our uniforms. And you see, you have people dressed up as aliens milling about. I'm like, isn't this fun? Look at us trekking.
I always wonder if people that have booked rooms on like TripAdvisor or Kayak that are just there on vacation and have no idea there's a convention happening. Especially if they're from overseas, is this Vegas? Is this what it's always like?
There's always a few, right? And they'll stop you in the hallway and like, can I take your picture? And I'm like, no one asked for your picture except for this person who doesn't know what I'm wearing. So I do it.
Well, my very first Vegas, I traveled together with my mother. She wasn't going to the convention itself. She just wanted to do Vegas stuff. So, shows, some window shopping, that sort of thing. And we were having breakfast one morning, and that was the morning that the convention actually started. So it was, at the time it was still 4 days, so Thursday morning. And people are milling about, and she leans over and she's like, "That woman is green." And I was trying to explain, and I don't think she got. I think she got the gist of it. She said, "This is fun." She's like, "I don't know I don't even care who these people are, but this looks fun." I'm like, "Yeah, the entire convention is gonna be like this."
That's cool. So we have a question from somebody from Bar Harbor, Michigan, Maine. No, Ron, you had a question for us. Ron, you want to go ahead and just take it away. Let us know. What do you want to know about us?
So again, that's a new guy to the group. What has been one of the best experiences you've had at STLV with another fan? Maybe a conversation you've had at Masquerade or a chance to encounter somebody in line. Just what's your best experience with another guest?
Who wants to go first?
Well, I can tell you because I actually cannot single out a single moment. There's been a plethora at this point, and it's exactly that. When you start to, when you form this relationship, when you met somebody one year and the next year you see each other in the crowd, and you want to step by and you want to talk to them, you want to go and have a drink together, and you do that, and those moments, they kind of start to accumulate eventually. So I cannot point out. I'd say more than 20 of these definitely over the past 10 years. And I'm sorely missing it that, if this doesn't happen this year, but unfortunately that's the thing. But yeah, at this point, it's a reunion. So moments like this, there's a lot of them.
Heather, what about you? You've got a lot.
Yeah, well, it's that same thing of like, how do you single out anything or all experiences with other fans have been wonderful and amazing. And I would probably cry if I try to single stuff out. I mean,
no, even the conversation that we're having right now, okay, so the longest, I know Heather the longest, and at this point, I mean, who would have thought that, so basically 10 years ago, that we'll be talking 10 years after that, and how many times we've talked since then, and the drinks we've had, and now podcast and the group and everything, and all of this kind of grew out of that one moment.
Yeah, it extends so much far beyond just STLV. Like, you get to a point where you're living lives alongside your friends, and you're experiencing all the stuff that they go through. And I have found it really heartwarming to see Star Trek fandom especially kind of step up during this time and in our history, and seeing that same camaraderie happen online. I'm just strange. I have been very withdrawn through all of this. I've had a lot of life changes too, but even though I have kind of sat back and haven't done any of the Zoom meetups or panels or anything like that, it has been so joyous to experience all of it, and to kind of, I've always said that social media is our convention when we're not at the convention. And like it's really turning into that this year especially. So it's been really wonderful to be able to see people's faces. Even if I haven't participated in the chat, I still enjoy seeing pictures of everybody hanging out.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's all fan experiences are best fan experiences. Sorry.
Well, I love all y'all, but I have one.
Do it. Go.
Go for
I
it.
have a lot of, no, I've met a lot of fans, and actually through the newbies, meeting our new people and helping to get that going, there's been a lot of experiences. But I want to tell you my favorite. It's the second year that I was at STLV, and I had, somehow I'd already met this fantastic group of people that we call ourselves the Vegas Brain Trust, and we meet every year. We try to do a non-Star Trek trip every year. We do a Star Trek photo every year. There's about 10 of us, and we're international. So there's people from London, people from Scotland, Canada, and then the US, and it's been fantastic. But this especially is, I remember it was towards the end of a karaoke at one of the places that they were doing it, and I just heard my name. Someone was just saying, Jesse, and I'm like, oh, okay. And this very non-assuming lady comes to me and says, hey, you're Jesse, right? I said, yeah. She's like, oh, I've been talking to you on Facebook. Can I take a selfie? And I said, sure. And I, didn't think anything of it. Well, she took that selfie and ran screaming to her husband, I got the selfie with Jesse. I got the selfie. That was Debbie Renke. Everybody knows Debbie. And she had seen that I had gone on a selfie rampage that year because I was excited that I had friends. So I was just posting selfies all over the place on the group. And she was just wanted to be part of the crowd. And I tell you, I've never had anyone make me feel so special as Debbie did. So Debbie, I know when you hear this, you need to know how special you made me feel. And it was absolutely one of the funnest experiences I've had at a Star Trek convention by far. And guys, it didn't cost me a dime. So it was fun. Okay, so let's see. We're gonna do one more question, and I'm gonna do this for Debbie because I love her and she made me feel special. So this is from Debbie. She's from Pleasanton, California, and her question is, it's gonna be good. What do you hope most people remember about you? So think about that, because that's kind of, we've been, we've talked a whole lot about who we are and what we are because of Star Trek. But at the end of the day, whether it be Star Trek or whatever, because of Star Trek, what are you hoping somebody remembers about you? So I'm going to start with Heather. Heather, you're not going to cry, are you, Heather?
I'm trying. No, I won't. I think I truly hope that most people walk away from me knowing that I am a kind-hearted person. And I think, man, I know that the one thing that makes me, it's like the biggest compliment that people give me at STLV is to know that either I was the first person they met or I was a gateway friend, we'll call it. That somehow I helped connect people or I helped make their first experience better. And I guess that's, I don't know. I like to know that people can genuinely see how much I love and care about this community. And that's what they take away from meeting me.
Very good. Ron, what about you as our newest member here?
That's a really profound question. I don't know. I think the Star Trek community is exactly that. And we said it a lot in this podcast. It's a community. And I would just like to be remembered as somebody who contributed positively towards that community. There is a lot of toxic fandom out there, and we've all seen it. We've all seen it firsthand. But, we're in a group, and we have great people out there on social media that are so positive. So I guess that's what I want to be remembered for, being a positive person that has just a passion for Star Trek.
Fantastic. So I'll go ahead and answer, and then Marina, we'll give it to you because
Sure.
then you can take it from there. So for me, um, at the end of the day, I want people to know that I care, and that um, none of this that I do with Star Trek is self-promoting or for my ego. I do it because uh, other people need it sometimes. I needed Star Trek conventions for some reason to feel like I was cared for and people liked me and that I added value to a conversation and to a place, whether it be a Star Trek convention or at work. I can say that through Star Trek, I've become more confident in who I am, not only at conventions, but at work as well. And so it's really impacted my career quite a bit. And I just want people to know that I love paying that back and I love paying it forward. And I hope they see that as they see me and interact with me through whether it's online or at a convention. Okay, Marina.
Yeah, it is a good question. I suppose I do hope that people, think that I was helpful. We talked about the care and the positivity and the community, but I've seen quite a few people express online just that it's as tantalizing, this whole concept of of joining the fandom and being a part of it and going to a convention and being part of the crowd. A lot of people find it extremely daunting. And so I hope that I've been helpful in terms of at least somehow making it a little bit easier for people to get into this crowd, to get to join in the convention circuit, if only by virtue of, disseminating and explaining and, having tips and advice available. So that's me.
That's fantastic. And if I can add for all of us, I would love our listeners and the people who are in our group to know that we don't get paid for that. And creation isn't listening to us every day. We do what we do out of love for our community, and we pass information along the same way you do. But you know how every once in a while they go tell creation this. I'm like, I don't think they know who I am.
Well, look, I do think it's important to remind everyone that we are fans just like everyone else in the group. Whether or not there's a podcast, no, we're still fans, and we're all the same at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We're all on the same level here. We don't have special intel or special foot in anywhere, which is we feed our community with love. And I love that we wrapped it up with things like kindness and positivity and being helpful and caring, because those are all things that I think are just centric to our group.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
All right, Marina.
All right.
I know we have to end, but I kind of don't want to, but go ahead and take us out.
Well, all right. So let's actually start to wrap this up. Let's get into the social media information. So Heather, where can people find you online?
So outside of the unofficial STLV group, the best place to find me is on Twitter at @BatlethBabe, and through there you can find all my little passion projects, including Fans Give Back, which is a growing, budding charity. Well, it's not for profit. It's just not a nonprofit yet. But I basically take Star Trek and geeky things that people don't want and send them to people who need them, and try to pay that Trek goodness forward. So yeah, @BatlethBabe.
All right, Ron, where can people find you online?
I think all of us are going to be saying the same thing. I'm on the unofficial Facebook group. Also, you can find me on Twitter at TrekkerRon. And feel free to add me on Facebook. Just send me a message on there if we haven't talked beforehand.
All right, and Jesse, over to you.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Outrageous Okendo. That's OUTRAJESOKENDO. Or find me in the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas convention group as one of the administrators, or just keep listening to Shore Leave. And I'm here a lot talking with my co-host Marina, who's fantastic.
Thank you. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram under my full name, or using handle at Dracorex, DRAKKOREX. And of course, as already been mentioned, we all are at your admin team at the unofficial Star Trek Las Vegas convention group, and Shore Leave, your Star Trek community convention podcast. which can be found under that very long name on Facebook, and at Shoreleaf on Twitter. And as our listeners know, Shoreleaf is part of the Triquarter Transmissions Network. If you enjoy what we do here or on any of our sister shows, please consider joining our Patreon. You can go directly to patreon.com/the Triquarter Transmissions, or visit our network webpage, which is www.thetriquartertransmissions.com, and click on the Patreon link there. And as always, thank you very much for your support and for listening, and keep tracking.
Live long and prosper, everyone. Thank you.